Hey folks, and welcome to a Stranger Things card walkthrough. Today I'll be predominantly using the Lawn Fawn String of Lights and Mini String of Lights die set, and I hope you enjoy it. So I've got my brand new die sets. As you can see that most of the dies are actually still all attached together. This card making tutorial is going to be quite a quick one, but there's a lot of die cutting, so you might see a few jumps of where I've cut the video down to make it a little bit smoother for you guys to watch. So you don't have to see me cut every single light bulb and every single layer out today. I've just given each of the string of lights a cut through on a bit of black cardstock there. I'm using Papermania DoCraft solid cardstock that were originally 8x8, but I've trimmed them down to use them because I know I'm going to use them for all the little light bulbs. And in the Lawn Fawn set, they've actually created a die set where you can cut out the silhouette of the light bulb originally, and if you do it in white, then the next die is actually of the colour bit of the bulb itself, and it leaves a little highlight that you can see right through. So I've just cut out all my bulbs in different colours, and I've also done the little black tops that would then attach to the wire just very quickly out of black cardstock there. So I wanted to try and stay true to the original Stranger Things sort of background and lights, so I've tried to pick out some of the colours I could see in Joyce's living room. I've just grabbed myself a pad of paper called the Paper Boutique, and I'm just flicking through to try and find an appropriate kind of wallpaper that would have been more of a 70s kind of look, and a colour background that I thought I could work with quite well, that had a sort of dullish tone but would still take on some of the ink quite well. So I'm just measuring out the size of my card and cutting that background paper down to size. I've got my Tim Holtz Distress inks. I'm using the Vintage Photo and the Tattered Rose. And I've also got a stencil that's made by Indigo Blue that I'm just layering down over my paper background. Also, I've just taken a bit of sticky off the masking tape there, just so that when I place it over the stencil and onto the backing for the bottom part of the stencil, it won't actually tear the paper once I want to release the stencil. I'm not going to ink over the entirety of the backing paper. I want to have some of it kind of showing through so it kind of feels natural and it's got like a gradient look to it. And I'm just using the Tattered Rose ink as well, just to add a lighter, softer kind of colour. Seeing as it's Joyce's living room, it would have been kind of a more feminine kind of touch to it, but it also just works really well with that Vintage Photo colour there. I'm just replacing my stencil, and place my stencil every single time so that the edges of the stencil go over my paper background so that I don't get any of the harsh edges. I only want to have the background, and I want it to have a natural look where it filters off each side of the paper background. And for the hand-drawn alphabet that goes on Joyce's wall, I'm using Yvonne Creations Wild Boys Alphabet die set. It's got a very natural hand-drawn kind of look to it, which is perfect for this project. So you can see that I've got the name there as well, and I'm just trying to figure out whether it would suit having one of the letters above it or not, and I've decided against it and tried to keep all of the name to the lower portion of the string of lights, because people's eyes won't naturally wander upwards and understand the context of the name really if it drifted too far. So I've had to have most of the light bulbs on the lower part of the string, but I have used the larger light bulbs as best as I could by creating that dimension so they felt like they were closer to us, and still having a few of the light bulbs that didn't have any of the alphabet attached to it still above the string of lights. You can see that I'm just sticking all the light bulb pieces together just so that it makes it a bit easier for me to arrange all the bulbs and get a good idea for the composition and layout of what I'm going to be doing, because I'm still not quite sure. You'll be able to see that I still rearrange it quite a few times. And I've just highlighted in the bottom right hand corner of the video there that I am using the smaller string of lights, and that it comes with two different parts, again same as the bigger lights, where it has the white background and it also had the coloured parts of the light bulb that allows the white to show through as the highlighted texture bit there. And by using the smaller string of lights along with the larger string of lights, again it creates more dimension to it, so it has a background feel, or like there'll be more strings of lights coming off of our canvas into her room, you know. So it has that feel, that continuation, and there's nothing like trying out some new dyes and playing with all of them at the same time. And you can see I don't finish the entire string there because I know that I'm not going to use all of it on the card, that I will be chopping off a bit of it later on. So I've just placed down some of the pieces. So I've just got out 2 birthday sentiments and an alphabet die set. And what I'm trying to do is figure out what my sentiment is actually going to be. Now I fixate on the birthday promise in the end because it kind of links in the Stranger Things feeling where Eleven is always on about keeping promises and friends keeping promises, and it links in nicely with a birthday promise. You can see that I just keep the birthday parts of the sentiments to try with the promise from the other alphabet, but a lot of them just didn't suit. They didn't seem to have the right kind of feel to it. Them being not the right font just generally didn't have the right feel to it. I even tried all of it just from the same alphabet die with the birthday promise, and this is how I work. I just experiment and see what seems to look like before I've stuck anything down officially. So what I decided to move on to was for the Lovers Stamps Hunky Dory's Sweet Wishes, they have an alphabet stamps. And so I'm just placing all the individual letters there for the word birthday. And I'll use my clear high emboss to stamp down with originally. And I've got the Wow embossing powder, which is the white opaque, I believe. And just use my little brush to get out any extra white flecks that were in between the letters there because it picked up a little bit. I've just heat embossed it, and then I've rearranged my letters and put the used letters on another stamping block just away from me, so I know to go back to them and clean them up later. And I'm just rearranging the next bit, which will say the promise, just making sure they're all neat and lined up as well. And I'll do exactly the same, and I'll go in with my clear high emboss and also back over with the white embossing powder. And I'll give it a bit of a heat up. You can see I'm just bringing my Fiskars guillotine there, just chopping it down to size. Just have a quick check that it does actually fit on the card. I was thinking of chopping it down naturally off the side of the card, but I decided actually just to give it a chop down, so I've got to make sure that I've got an equal amount of black around the sides. So I want to start sticking down my elements. So I stuck down the main line of lights there first. And then also I'm placing the mini string of lights down because obviously they want to be in the background, so you want to stick them down first before you think about sticking anything over the top of it. And I'll just work along the string of lights, and I've used the 3D foam pads for the larger light bulbs, so it adds a bit of dimension as if those larger light bulbs are coming towards us a little bit more. I mean, the size of them in its own right already help with that kind of feel, but I just think the 3D foam pads adds a little something else. And you can see me struggle to try and figure out where to put that yellow light bulb at the top over the smaller string, but it's just to make sure that it sits comfortably at the top. You can see that I'm trying to get a good angle for that yellow one there without covering up too much of the other lights, but if I do cover it up then it kind of has a natural look to it. I just go in with my Specialist Cosmic Shimmer, which has just got a smaller applicator, a bit like a nail polish brush, just to make sure I can stick down that top bit of the light bulb, just because it wasn't resting as comfortably because of the dimension of the smaller light bulbs underneath it. So I just gave a bit of a hold down just to make sure it's properly secured. Next I stick down the name just underneath each of the light bulbs. And I'm going to use 3D foam pads again for the sentiment, just to give it a bit of height and add to that composition as well, so that the light bulbs aren't the only thing that's kind of popping forward. So I'm just turning over my backing paper there, and anything that's left hanging over the edge, I've just trimmed it down. So I've noted that there's an extra white bit of card peeking through at the top there. And I'll put down my double-sided sticky tape, and I'll still use the same sticky backing technique that I used before, which is I pull out the little tabs so that I've got a better way of positioning it on the card. Gives me a bit of time to put it in place. Now I'm placing it to the bottom left of the card there because I know that it's a little bit shorter than the top, so I thought if I only had one edge to cut, it made more sense than worrying about having 3 or 4 possibly wonky edges. And there you go, you have yourself a lovely Stranger Things personalised birthday card. Just after finishing recording the original card, I had an idea and I just wanted to share with you guys what I could do with the light bulbs as just a simple little feature to add to them. So if you use the colour bits of the light bulbs that you die cut out, if you use the Hi-Boss clear stamping pad, and you also use clear embossing powder too, that you can then heat it up and it gives a really kind of glossy texture. Now you can always go in again with a second layer if you've not quite managed to cover it all. Sometimes I found I need to do only 1 layer, other times it's 2, and all you do is stick all the other features of your light bulbs together, and there you go, you got yourself some glossy light bulbs, which I thought was a really cool effect. Thank you very much folks, and I hope you've enjoyed this walkthrough. Please do get in touch if you've made a card to do with the string lights or even a Stranger Things card. I'd love to see it. Alright, thank you guys, bye!